It's great to be here today having a conversation with Linda Sterling and Wendy Jo Tayama. My name is Steve Smith, and I am the CEO of Association Management Center. And Linda and Wendy Jo have done some really incredible work with the American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine as they continue their DEI journey. We're going to hear a little bit more about that today. So thank you both for being with me and for sharing some of your experiences. So we have a few questions. First and foremost, would love to hear a little bit more about the key and core elements of your DEI strategy for AAHPM.
Sure. So our current DEI plan, we have 4 major domains. So the first is focusing on inclusion and action. And the goal is to move the needle forward with action and courage to ensure that AAHPM is a leader in DEI. The second domain is representation. The goal is to attract, develop, and sustain a robust and diverse workforce, including clinicians, educators, researchers, and innovators, in order to expand access to high-quality hospice and palliative care. The third domain is on DEI resources, accessibility, and communication. This is to ensure that everything the Academy does is considered through a lens of equity and access. And our final domain is equitable access to care, to support efforts to improve equitable access to care for all patients. So these 4 domains, we have a DEI committee, and our committee has decided to form subcommittees. Each one will focus on each domain. So they meet, the full committee meets every other month, but the subcommittees meet on those alternate months to dive deep into the work, to discuss the actions. How are we going to make this a meaningful plan? How are we going to implement the work? What steps need to be taken? So we've been really diving deep since the plan was approved the end of 2023.
That's great. And I know that a lot of associations have created a DEI strategy or guiding principles. Some of them have been in place for many years and have been very helpful as organizations start their journey. You've all updated your plan a couple different times. So what's changed with your more recent version of your plan, and how is that helping you evolve and move forward?
Yeah, when I came on board, as many know, DEI is a passion area for me, and so I was excited to join AMC and the Academy, where it was important and a value with both organizations. So it was exciting to have a plan in place. I will say the plan that was in place initially focused on things like creating a welcoming environment, building a sense of community, making space for conversations and learning. And so to me, it felt like what needed to happen was to, using the member voice, as Linda said, really think about what to do to take our plan to the next level. And to me, that meant leaning a little bit more into justice and equity, looking at measurable results in the plan, and really kind of elevating those efforts. I think depending on where you are in your DEI journey, starting with conversations and welcoming environment, that's a really great place to start, and then you can build on that. And so I think that's how I would characterize the shift. I will also say that we intentionally increased our resources for DEI. So we carved out funds to do the research. We also increased the percent of time in terms of staffing. While we don't have a full-time DEI manager, we increased it from 30% to 50% time on the effort. And I think that's important, because unless you invest in this and live your values, you're not going to see results, right? So that was an important shift as well that supported that shift in the plan.
I like how you've engaged stakeholders in your planning, and that you have committees and groups set up to help ensure that the elements of the plan get moved forward and advanced. I was curious, what are some of the ways that you involve your members? So maybe people who attend your conference or have joined the Academy, how are they involved with DEI initiatives and work, or how does it, what opportunities do they have really to learn and grow through these experiences?
Our membership's very engaged in this, and I love to see how it shows up at our meeting. It's so much a part of the meeting. I don't think of it as being different. And then I step back and realize it is. Linda, you've really helped champion this. I'm sure you have more to say about it. I'd love it if you jumped in.
Yeah, annual assembly being our biggest event, our most popular event of the year, the DEI committee and myself and the staff have worked really hard on making sure that we are thoughtful and celebrating DEI, embracing it at the assembly, and not just coming up with all these different ways to celebrate and embrace, but we make sure we let our members know what's coming. So an email is always sent before we're on site at assembly to let them know how are we going to celebrate and embrace DEI. For Phoenix, we really did a lot of stuff that was really cool. We had a pre-con session that's 4 hours before. It's the Wednesday before the conference starts. So there's DEI content that's shared with the members. They're welcome to join us and share their feedback and their experiences. And it's a great way for us to learn from them and them to learn from us. There's
Linda,
DEI focus.
that's presented by members, right? It's
Oh
really
yeah, the
presented in the
faculty.
content.
The faculty are members of the
Powerful.
academy. Most of them are from our DEI committee. They are committed to our DEI plan and our work. So they're excited to put on this conference, this session, the pre-con. In addition to that, we look closely at all the sessions that are held and we focus on what are the DEI sessions and we share with the members what to look for. So they have a list exactly what type of DEI focused sessions they can attend and be a part of. There's DEI homerooms at the end of the day at assembly, and this is an opportunity for them to come and meet with the faculty and peers and reflect and discuss the DEI track sessions and share some takeaways or what would be more helpful, any challenges they have at home. These are very organic conversations that members can engage in. And they were very popular at the assembly, so we continue to do them. We did a panel called The Voices of Hospice and Palliative Care, and this is a powerful panel which embraces diversity of people and stories within the field of hospice and palliative care. So it was our first time doing it at Phoenix, and it was amazing. It was very impactful. Then we have the fun stuff, right? So we do live performances, and in Phoenix, we held our very first drag queens performance at the opening reception where we had 4 queens to join us on our stage somewhat and perform songs and engage with our members. Very different for us, but it was embraced well and our members loved it. It was very important to us because our LGBTQI+ SIG, they envisioned and wanted to see this happen at our conference. So it was sort of their vision that motivated us to listen to them and to make it happen. So we had that. We had a Native American hoop dance, which is a beautiful expression of the circle of life. So that was seen at our morning sessions. We had an all-female mariachi band, which was incredible. And then we offered a quiet space. So our assembly took place during Ramadan. And because we wanted to make this a welcoming space for those who are observing or celebrating Ramadan, we did have a quiet space, which is a room where you are encouraged to come in to pray. We offered disposable prayer mats, and it was open to pretty much anyone. So if you wanted a space to come in to reflect, to pray, to sit quietly, it was encouraged, and our members loved it. Social Offset was an organization that we partnered with for the first time, and they help offset any tax expenditures in states where the legislation doesn't quite align with your DEI values or commitments. So this was a great campaign. It was an opportunity for members to give back to local charities in the area. And the last thing we did was a virtual component because we do have members who are at home who want to participate. So we did these things called Padlets where they could share stories about the uniqueness of their names or meaningful objects that celebrate their culture. And embraces diversity. So we did a lot of stuff and we're doing it again. So we've already started to have conversations. What are we going to do in Denver to keep diversity, equity, inclusion at the forefront of the assemblies? So,
I'd
So
like to say that, a couple of things. This work is not easy. It doesn't happen overnight. We have a presenting partner. And, the way we approach DEI, they call it DEIB. We're at different places on our journey. There was a lot of concern about the drag performance, that we didn't want it to just be performative. So when Linda talked about it being kind of buy-in from the community, that was really important. I would also say that we had a president who, when doing the land acknowledgement, also didn't want to just say the words and encouraged people to support local groups that were giving to Indigenous people. So made that more meaningful. So I think the important thing is to be intentional, to include voices. We had folks who celebrate Ramadan, help inform what we were doing. And I guess the other thing is that sometimes there are things that don't quite go the way you want, and you need to learn and grow from them. But you just have to try doing things. And it's really fun to see because it's woven so much through our meeting. And members love it. We also do a DEI reception. I don't know if you mentioned that. And
yes.
it is so well attended. We have to get a bigger room next year. So there's a lot of engagement from our group. And of course, not all organizations will have the same engagement or be in the same place in the journey. So you have to be thoughtful about how you do that work so that it's not performative, but kind of moves the organization forward in a meaningful way.
Yeah, it feels very integrated, and I think you create unique experiences for the attendees. Some they happen upon, some they choose to participate in. And it feels genuine, authentic, and it's something people really look forward to with your conference. So I did want to bring up one topic as we're together, because I think that some groups perhaps have pulled back a bit on maybe what they're offering or providing, whether it's at conference or even sort of what issues, societal issues, social issues they choose to address and consider as an organization, because of things that are happening in different institutions, higher education and elsewhere, around DEI terminology and practices and policies. And so my question to the two of you is, what advice do you have for association leaders who might be getting questions, might hear concerns, maybe addressing some of these issues in their own workplaces? What message, what advice do you have for association leaders moving forward?
So Linda, you want me to start with the hard one?
Yeah, go ahead.
The first thing I would say is because of the attack that these efforts are under, I think it's all the more important that we continue to lean into our values. So it's not a time to back away. I would also say it's a good time to go out and get information. So I think last year at ASA's assembly, there was a session on this and they had lawyers speaking about it. And I think it's very important to understand what the laws include and what they don't include. And largely they don't include associations. So, the states that have restrictive laws have restricted laws for things that may be receiving state funding or be in teaching institutions. So I think it's really important to kind of understand and then determine, particularly if you're in one of those states or have members leaders from those states that are really worried. I think it's really important to get advice from an expert on what does this mean for us. And I think it probably doesn't mean as much for us as people think it may mean. And so I think this is about being bold and leaning into your values and determining how you want to show up and live those values. I have a past president who runs a DEI program in a state where he had to change his title. And one of the things I did was hooked him up with another person who had to figure out how to wade through those waters. So that's another way to help, is to connect your members that at the state level are dealing with it, talk about that. I don't know that means that we have to do necessarily what needs to happen in the states. So You may have leaders that want to do that, and you can think about if that makes sense for your program to rename it, and it may, and that's okay. I would just say, I wouldn't use it as an excuse to back away from the work.
I would add that there's data, right, that shows us businesses that embrace DEI, they're more successful, they attract top talent, they retain their staff at a higher rate, especially with the younger generations, the millennials, Gen Z, they don't want to work for, they don't want to buy from any companies that don't embrace diversity. There's data that shows us that and tells us that. But I think we need to remember it's not just about our bottom line, like discrimination, exclusion, inequality, they've been harmful to society for far too long, and we're still working towards a more just society. We have a long way to go and a lot of work to do. So I think remembering the social benefit is the most important part to doing DEI and committing to it.